recording, and then we are going to live stream to Facebook.
Okay.
All right. Well, this is awesome. We have got a lot of people here joining us live. So hi, Regina. Hi, Annie. Hi, Robin. I don't know first name of Simmons Webb, but somebody. And Allison. Nice to see you guys. This is good, Brenda. This is a lot of people for your cause. Cool. Well, thanks you guys. Thanks for being here live. Let's see. Okay, we are almost live on Facebook, so just give us a second. Yeah.
Okay, I want to say hi to Sasha because I've heard so much about her through listening to your interview. So I just want to say hi to Sasha, and we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you for doing that. I'm such a slacker. She's awesome. Yeah, she's been doing all the amazing graphics too for this. So yeah, it's been super helpful. Awesome. Yes, you guys, if you guys need help with graphics, Sasha is a great person for that.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, she does all that stuff. Okay, it's still saying preparing for Facebook Live. I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay. You have done an awesome job this week. I have been mesmerized by your interviews. They have been great.
Well, they're going to be great today too.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate you for having me in such a lineup. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited. I mean, we always wanted to do something together, so this is great.
That's true. And we've been trying for what, a couple of years now?
Yeah. It's been a while. Okay, so why is it saying preparing? Okay, let me try again with this Facebook Live thing, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Facebook. I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook.
LaDonna is joining us, and she's actually the founder of the Austin Tyler Foundation.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. Oh my gosh, yes. So cool.
Yes.
So cool. Okay, I think it's wanting me to type stuff in, that's why. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, I'm gonna put some lipstick on so I don't look quite so washed out. Okay.
Okay, it says
it's almost
we're
there.
Streaming.
I can see it. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so welcome, Brenda. Brenda has such an amazing backstory that I really wanted to make sure we got to bring her on and share with us where you came from and how you ended up becoming a realtor in, they say it funny, don't they? Forsyth, Georgia. Forsyth, Georgia.
They say that God has a sense of humor. And the fact that I am actually a realtor in Cumming, Georgia, confirms that. Confirms that 100%. Because 10 years ago, if you had asked me, what are you going to be doing in 10 years? Being a realtor based out of Cumming, Georgia would not have been my answer. So it's a matter of being obedient and traveling the path that he has set forth for you.
So tell us about that path. Because you, like I said, you have like one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. Tell us.
Oh my God, I don't know about that.
Tell us about early Brenda, because those stories just blew my mind. However much you're willing to share. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so early Brenda is originally from Rochester, New York. Okay, I grew up in an area that was somewhat rough, I guess you could say. And I made sure I participated in all of that, you know, little gangs, drugs, in some form or fashion. I participated in each one of those. But as I said, God has a sense of humor. So he decided that he wanted me to do something different with my life. And it was not an epiphany moment. It was a process. It was a process, like everything else is. It's a process. So I can't say I volunteered for the process, but I'm accommodating the process. Let's say that. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 1986, I think it was. Now I'm starting to date myself, right? And
Never.
I think that was probably the middle of my process. I moved here with absolutely no family. I was dating this guy and we decided to pack up and move to Atlanta. Well, that was my second introduction into an abusive relationship. So I'm in an abusive relationship in a city where I have absolutely no family. So I had to, this was a time I think I can say, thank God I was from a rough neighborhood and learned how to fight, because I had to fight my way out of that one, okay? So I ended the relationship, and then I had to make a decision if I was going to remain in Atlanta with absolutely no family, or if I was going to go back to my familiar surroundings in Rochester, New York. Well, I decided to stay, and I've been here ever since. And I've grown, I've made mistakes, I've failed at things, but it's all part of the process. In 1987, I was working for this newspaper. It was a free weekly alternative newspaper. And that was the year that Oprah Winfrey did her show in Forsyth, Georgia. So the editor of the newspaper decided, you know what, I want to cover this story. I'm fresh from up north, was very interested in how all this was going to play out. I was a sales administrator for the newspaper, so I asked if I could go. And he said yes. So the march was supposed to start at the King Center. We were all going to jump on buses and go to Forsyth, Georgia. Well, when we got there, it was crowded. The editor decided, why don't we just drive? So I said, okay, we drove to Forsyth, Georgia, the city of Cumming, and parked our cars. The buses had not got there yet, so we were the first there. So we're walking in downtown Cumming, Georgia, which my office is 5 minutes away from right now. And there were National Guards there. There were protesters there that lived in Cumming, and they had their signs about I should go back to Africa, and I wasn't welcome there. So one of the National Guards came over to our group, and he asked who was in charge. And the editor said, well, I guess I'm in charge. So he pulled him away, and they had a conversation, and he came back, and he said, we have got to get Brenda back to the meeting place, because I was the only African-American in the group, because they're worried about her safety. Then the Brenda from Rochester kicks in and says, well, that's what you all better do, because you don't want to deal with my family if something happens to me. We went back to the meeting place. By this time, the buses had arrived, and there were people there. I guess they were from the KKK. They had their full uniforms on, and that was amazing to me, because the only time I had ever witnessed anything like that is on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So
this was in the 80s, the late 80s.
1987,
Yeah.
to be exact. So we were marching, and we got called all kind of names, and it was almost like I was participating in a movie myself, to actually feel that or be in the midst of that firsthand. So, the march was over. Now we're going to fast forward, because now we're going to talk about God's sense of humor. Okay. I was working at AT&T, and at AT&T, I sold their large networks. And I was also the CEO for a employee resource group called the Women of AT&T, and also the Southeast Regional President. So employee resource group at AT&T was an opportunity for you to represent AT&T in the community where you lived and worked. And also, it was an opportunity for you to get assistance in professional and personal development. So we in the Women of AT&T in the Southeast, we had 6,000 women, and we had some men as well. So here I am, from Rochester, New York, CEO and president of the Women of AT&T. Wonderful experience, wonderful experience. While working at AT&T, I didn't feel as fulfilled in the middle of my career there toward the end as I had felt when I first started. So whenever that happens to me, I know that's the time when change is about to take place. And it's so uncomfortable and it's so frustrating. So, I prayed about it, and I have a prayer partner, and we prayed about it. And I had gotten my real estate license probably 2 to 3 years prior to this actually happening. And the voice I heard was it was time to go.
Mm.
So I said, okay. So I left AT&T. My real estate license was parked at Berkshire Hathaway. So walked away from AT&T, just resigned, and started to sell real estate full time. Well, I transitioned from Berkshire Hathaway from Berkshire Hathaway to Keller Williams, which is 5 minutes away from the downtown Cumming area.
Full circle, baby.
Yes, and what is even more extraordinary, if you will, about that is in '87, I was protesting. In 2020, I hold a prayer group every Tuesday morning at Keller Williams in Forsyth, Georgia, praying for the very people who would probably generations ago didn't even want us there.
Mm.
Some family members didn't even want us there.
Well, even 20 years ago.
So it's full circle. It's mindset. Mindset has to be a part of that as well. Because how do you take a young lady who didn't think enough of herself at that time to be in a relationship that was healthy for her, to a mindset that, okay, I'm going to start reaching out and helping other women. For 5 years, I facilitated a support group at the Gwinnett County Battered Women's Shelter. And this was at the time that I was working at AT&T. And what's so interesting about that is the women who were at the shelter, this happened every time. When I would come in, they would look at me like, because, I'm in sales. So, pardon my slang, I'm suited and booted, okay? So walking into that environment, the first thing they do when they see me is they think, well, she's never had any struggles. How she's going to tell us how to live. Then after I start to tell my story, then it becomes, okay, she's walked in our shoes, so she can certainly help us. So it's mindset. For me, it has always been about mindset. One of the things that my mom taught us was to always, in making a decision, and this has been my decision-making process, in making a decision, weigh the consequences. If you can handle the consequences, move forward. If you can't, you may want to rethink that decision. That has stayed with me, and I've paid some dear prices for some of the decisions that I've made when I thought I could handle the consequences. So it's been a great journey. There's so much more to come. One of the things I need to kind of pause here and say is thank you to you for having the courage, because I know it takes courage, for having the courage to be able to have these open conversations that you've had in the past week. They have been phenomenal. One of the things that I read, you said that in doing this, I may lose some clients. If you lose clients because you want to make sure that you're getting to the truth, better clients are coming. Trust me when I tell you that.
Oh, honestly, that post that you're talking about, I think was about, I canceled this big thing I was going to do in my business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I already came to the decision that if being an ally means I lose clients or lose people that aren't aligned with that, you know what? Screw them. The other day, one of the this lady posted on on one of the links to our conversation, to a conversation, and said, wow, not my viewpoint. And I went to go unfriend her and she'd already unfriended me. And I was like, okay.
And see, I think
Peace
that's,
out, man.
yeah, that's where, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have a different viewpoint. I think that, you know, these are the times for deconstruction and
Mhm.
reconstruction. Okay? There may have been attitudes or mindsets that people have had that need to be deconstructed. There's nothing comfortable about that. There's
Right.
nothing comfortable about deconstruction and reconstruction, right? In these challenging times, I think that is what is happening. There are some things that are being deconstructed that are going to need to be reconstructed. And that has
Yes.
even been my life, you know?
Well, you've been having some interesting conversations too, that we were talking about on the phone too, about, well, I don't know if you're willing to share the conversation. I don't know how recent it was, but the guy that called you up and said what he said to you about slavery. Do you want to share that?
I've had I had one conversation, and that was before, believe it or not, that was before all of this started. That was
Okay.
a conversation prior to all of the going on. But this person wanted me to have a conversation with them because they had an African American client who was looking to move to Cumming, Georgia. And I said, okay. He said, I want to be able to tell my African American client that if he gets stopped in Cumming, he has a very nice car, that he'll have the same experience with a police officer that I would have. And my response to him is that you can tell him that, but that's probably not going to be the case.
It's not true.
You know, and he said, well, what do you mean? I said, it's different. It always has been different, you know, and it is what it is. It's different. So he said that, you know, when there were slaves, the masters were very good to their slaves. So that's basically saying, you know, I guess as slaves, they should have been happy that the masters was good to them. And that was not a conversation that I was willing to participate in, because it was just going to go down a dark hole.
It was already down dark hole.
Yeah, and I think that there is some, and you know, we have got to at some point go from tolerance to understanding. And I think that this was not even my plan, but for some reason I'm being led down this path, okay? For some reason, I think there is a mindset that people think that we as African Americans, let me speak for myself, I can't speak for everyone, that George Floyd got killed, right? And there was some things going on, was the reason that he was even in police custody. My mindset is not that if George Floyd did something wrong, that he should not take responsibility for that. My mindset is that, well, let him make it to court, okay? Let's make sure he has the opportunity to face the penalties for whatever he did. So there's not, I don't think there's a mindset that people shouldn't pay for what they do. The mindset is they need that opportunity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. And that you even have to frame it in that way is kind of just a statement about what's going on and the sort of systemic racism that we right. white people participated in. Because like the way I was thinking through those same reasons, right? Because you hear white people out there saying, well, he did something wrong, right?
Right.
But think about if because I was thinking about this, like, what if my son, who's only, the oldest one's 11 right now, but what if he, as all teenagers do, did something really stupid, right? You know, and got in trouble with the cops for some reason, right? Like, it would never even enter my mind that he should be detained in such a way.
Mhm.
You know, like, that's not even okay, not on any level. And, you know, there'd be whatever lawsuits or whatever stemming out of that, right? But the fact that there is systemic racism means they're going to react differently in that situation,
Mhm.
right? Just by the nature of his skin color. And that's what it means, is they're going to do things differently. They're going to take it in a different level of aggression. They're going to take a different solution that wasn't a solution. And that's what it means. And that's what we have to dismantle. Yeah.
Right. And you know, you said something very systemic, right? Systemic relates to system, right? So I don't, you know, that's where the deconstruction and reconstruction
Yes.
comes into play.
Yes.
The
Yes.
system as it is
Isn't
has to
working.
be deconstructed,
Right.
right? No one is asking or saying that people shouldn't pay for their wrongs. We're saying let them have the opportunity.
Right. Let them
And
have the equal opportunity.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it has to be, and there's nothing pretty about deconstruction and reconstruction. Let's simplify it down to when you're renovating a home.
Right.
Okay? When you're renovating a home, what's the first thing you do? You get all the stuff out of it, take everything out, right? And then you start all over again. But there's nothing comfortable about how it looks in the process.
That is such a great analogy,
Right?
Brenda.
This is just a time for things to be deconstructed and reconstructed. That's all. That's all. It's a lot of hurt and pain involved in that. It's a lot of hurt and pain. It's no different. I absolutely abhor going to the gym. I hate going to the gym. But you know what? I love the results.
Yeah.
So because of that, I go. This is a very painful time, stressful time, right? But if we all look in our hearts, not just one, if everyone look in their hearts, right? And maybe in your heart, there needs to be some deconstruction and reconstruction,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If we all look inward, because people get really offended when you say, well, that's a racist comment, right? Because that makes them feel a certain way. Maybe they didn't know it. I don't know. But we all have to kind of let down our guards. And when I say let down our guards, I don't mean as an African American person when I'm out in the street not be aware. That's not what I mean. What I mean is we all have to realize that there's some education that needs to be done, right? And along with that education, it's going to be very uncomfortable. Because anytime you've done something one way for so long, when it's time to do it a different way, that's not fun. That's not comfortable. But what if that way is a better way, not just for one person, but for everybody?
Well, I think that's where it comes into play. That fear right now is, you know, white people looking at, look, if we upset the apple cart, and this isn't conscious, I don't think anyone's thinking this consciously, but on a subconscious level, I think they're saying, if we upset this apple cart, maybe I'm not going to have the privilege that I have right now. You know, maybe I'm not going to be in the place that I'm in anymore. You know, maybe all my tax money will go to reparations or whatever. You know, these are not conscious things people are thinking about. Most people are thinking, but on a subconscious level, there's this belief that, well, what does equality for all mean? What does that look like for me as a white person, right? Like, I'm scared of that. You know, it's been this way, like you said, it's been this way for so long. I'm scared, you know, and I think that's what we're seeing. And yeah, I would love to ask, sorry, go ahead, Brenda, you were going to say something.
What I have learned in my life that, or what I have used in my life, I've used fear as an acronym of false expectations appearing real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So while I may be afraid that this is going to take something away from me, then that's a mindset that causes for the deconstruction and the reconstruction,
Totally.
right? Because that's where the gap comes in. You know, there's a big gap because of certain mindsets. You had a question for me or for someone?
Yeah. So our conversation is titled The Wealth Gap. I would love to hear from you. You know, we only touched on this a little bit briefly, but just from your perspective as a realtor, from your perspective as a woman of color, like what do you see as things that we as a society can do to ensure that we are really taking care of everyone, that we are really giving everyone the same opportunities? You know, where do you see that in real estate coming up, and just kind of, you know, in general? How do we make sure everyone has the same opportunities?
I think everything starts with education. When I say
Mm.
education, I'm not talking about high school, college. I'm talking about how at times there are people that raise their children and they sit around the table at 7 or 8 and say, listen, this is how you make money. This
Mm.
is how money works.
Mm.
This is what you do when you get $1.
Mm.
This is what you do with that dollar. That's the education I'm speaking of. And when you live in an impoverished neighborhood, okay, you don't have that opportunity to say this is what you do with the dollar, because before you get that dollar, it's spent. Okay, that's where, once again, the deconstruction and the reconstruction. You know, someone said about a week or so ago, whenever there is a debate going on, especially in a presidential election, you never hear, or it's not a topic of poverty. How do we get rid of, or how do we address poverty? Okay, again, it's education. We have to go into these neighborhoods and say, okay, what can we do? Because it's all about exposure, right? You can't have a mindset or have great goals if you have only been exposed to a really small area in which you live, right? So it has to be exposure and it has to be education. You know, Denzel Washington talks about if there wasn't a Boys and Girls Club, he doesn't know where he would be at this time in his life. There was a post on Facebook the other day, I think my sister sent it to me. It was an African-American father talking to his son. His son could not have been any older than 10 years old. He was having a conversation with him about wealth, about money, about politics, about everything. He was having that conversation with that young man at 7 years old. That's where it started, education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that looks like, I don't have the answer, but it has to be, because if you talk to any African American, they will always tell you, I just need a chance. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I just need a chance. Now, well, you got a chance and you blew it. Well, that's going to happen. And I'm not saying that light. It's people are going to make mistakes. So when people make mistakes and they serve their time, right? Should they not ever be able to be a productive member of society again? Because it's very hard. So there's some education in that area. TD Jakes has a program in Dallas, Texas. He served over 30%, maybe more than that, of inmates, right? To
Mm.
recidivism. Because recidivism is called when you don't have a chance, when you don't have an
Right.
opportunity.
Right.
Okay. Even now in my life, when I'm stressed or I'm fearful, sometimes that mind goes back to that old Brenda, right? That Brenda that used to think about how to fight or how to lash out at people once they're, but that's not the answer, you know? And people are tired. There has to be a deconstruction and a reconstruction. As a realtor, one of the things that I pride myself in is to walk people through the process of getting ready for home ownership. I don't just deal with people who are ready to buy a home, got the money, got the credit, everything. You know, we have lenders that will help them and walk them through the process, educate them on what you need to do and what you don't need to do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so this is very limited research here, but I was watching a documentary on the wealth gap between Black and white, and one of the key factors in this documentary, at least, was saying that homeownership is one of the sort of biggest wealth builders, right? And that's a place where we need more support in the Black community for making that equitable, for making, you know, unfair lending practices have to be done away with. And, you know, there's all these studies about how African Americans are given, you know, worse rates on their mortgages. And, you know, so even when they do get a loan, it's a much more, you know, heavy term for them, for anybody. And yeah, I don't know. What do you get some sense of that in real estate? I mean, do you see that?
But again, that's where the education comes.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to partner with some lenders so we can do some home buying seminars. Okay.
Yes.
It's all about, you can't make a goal for yourself, right? If you can't envision that goal, you have to say, there's an opportunity for me to own a home if I do these things, okay? But if you don't know those things to do, that's never a goal of yours.
Right.
So
you don't know it's possible.
Right. It's back to the deconstruction of the process. You know, the process should not be, you know, because the first thing you'll hear was everyone has an equal opportunity.
Right.
Right. You know, there's a saying that a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you change a person's mindset, you change their life. So the only way that a mind is going to be changed is for exposure. We have to find a way to go into these communities and give people hope. Yes. Everything that's happening today is because people
yes.
are tired of not having hope.
Yes.
You know, you know, I've been in abusive relationships. I'm really out here now. I've been in abusive relationships. I've been molested. All of that could have been an excuse for me to lose hope, right? The reason it wasn't an excuse for me to lose hope is because of the exposure I had. I had seen people that looked like me be successful, regardless of their background, right? But the other piece of that is there's some work I had to do. I had to dig deep. I had to dig deep with all those inferiority complexes that come from being in an abusive relationship. But see, because of my exposure, I was able to realize that I could do the work. But what about the people who don't have that exposure? What about the people who don't have that hope? So that's where the deconstruction and the reconstruction comes into play. I don't have all the answers, but I do know, just based on what's happening, there are some things that are being deconstructed, so some things can be reconstructed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, you know, the more programs we can have that bring that, I call it a sense of deservingness, you
Yes.
know, a sense of deservingness to people. And that has to happen, I think, at a systemic level where we're saying, you know, look, these unfair lending practices are illegal, which they should be anyway, but, you know, we're not basing this on what your application looks like. You know, an application needs to maybe be nameless, you know, so, and what's the word I'm looking for? Without a photo, without you showing up in person, like there has to be all these checks and balances there on the systemic level. And then I think what I'm also hearing you say is we need to be going into these communities and having these conversations, you know, bringing people like you who want to be supportive and help and show them the example of like, hey, we can do this.
Yeah, and see, we can't just, there can't just be someone going into the community saying that. There has to be some backup with that as well,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
when you start to give a person hope, okay, when you start to give a person hope, there has to be something consistent following that.
Mm-hmm.
Because just as quick as the hope came, if there's nothing consistent following that, then it's easy to be lost again, right?
That
It's like when you get momentum, you get some momentum doing something, and you want to keep that momentum up, right? You want to keep the momentum going. You want to make sure that I keep this momentum. So it has to be something consistent to follow up with that, not just a one and done. It can't be just a one and done. And that's where the deconstruction and the reconstruction comes into it. It has to be, this system as it is now is failing miserably, okay? And that's why I believe we're in the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
And I have made a commitment to myself that, okay, so maybe I can't help thousands of people, but if I can help one at a time, if I can give one person hope, one person each day, if I can give one person hope, that's a start. And see, we all can do that. That's a start. If I can just give one person hope each and every day of my life, that's an impact.
I love your philosophy, and I always have. I mean, we had such a great connection the first time we met. I just always been just beaming that out to people, Brenda.
You know, it's because if I have a strong faith, and I'm a firm believer that if God saved me, okay, because I was headed down a path of self-destruction. If he saved me, then I have to reach out and give someone a hand of help and a thought of hope. I have to do that, right? I have to. And if we are able to look at hearts as much as we're looking at color, it would be a totally different world. You know, and it has to start somewhere. You know, there are people that think nothing is going to change. It has to start somewhere. So I'm trying to be the change that I want to see. I'm reaching out beyond, my home or my community. I'm just reaching out as much as I can and as often as I can, because I am not going to put the full responsibility on other people. I'm going to take some of the responsibility.
And I just so admire you for that, because
Thank you so much.
I know that yeah, these are some really tough times, and the idea that you're still able to give some of that energy back to others right now is just, it's huge and powerful.
When people are going through hard times or having a rough time or have an issue, because there are thousands and millions of people out there that have the same story that I had, okay? But everyone, for whatever reason, does not want to tell it. And I don't mind sharing it, because I believe in sharing. It helps someone to feel, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that has happened to. You know what I mean? Because, in corporate America, in the real estate industry, I think it's safe to say that I don't look like where I came from. So to be able to hear my story and see where God has me going, I think is an inspiration.
I am so thankful that you've been here and sharing your story, Brenda. It's just really powerful.
Thank you for having me. I really do. I'm humbled because, I've watched the interviews that you've done this week, and they have been phenomenal.
You guys are all phenomenal. That's what I was saying to Sasha yesterday. I'm like, these women are freaking rock stars. I'm just amazed that they're my friends. So all of you guys are just amazingly powerful
Thank you
people.
so much.
And,
I'm really grateful
and
for the opportunity.
you named, I can't remember who is the founder of the Austin. LaDonna. Oh, okay, there she is. LaDonna, would you like to speak to that foundation? Would you like to share that with us? I don't know if you are comfortable getting on video or even just audio.
She's comfortable. Is she there?
I don't know. Hard to say.
LaDonna, are you there?
Maybe not. Maybe she had to step away. Well, we're going to be giving, it looks like $100 to
wow.
her foundation.
She's grateful.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I'll drop the link to their website in the Facebook Live. Let me verify the name of it. Austin Tyler Foundation. If you guys search for the Austin Tyler Foundation, it's a foundation that helps battered women. And that was Brenda's cause that she wanted to support. So I'm really, really thankful to you guys that joined us live on Zoom, because my commitment was to contribute to each of our speakers' amazing causes. $10 for whoever joined us live. So I'm really thankful to you guys. No, thank you guys.
We are really, really grateful for you. You keep up the fight. You keep it up.
Please don't be thankful. I got my own stuff, Brenda. I got a bunch of my own stuff in my head.
Don't we all? Hey, I just gave you a tiny, tiny bit of mine today.
Well, those authentic shares are what people need to hear. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I told that story about what that guy said to you on the phone. It just blew my mind. But
it's a mindset, right? It's a mindset. It's a mindset
that we're trying to shift, you know?
Yeah,
and I guess,
that we're going to deconstruct and reconstruct, right?
Well, I feel like, did that guy not read a single book? I mean, like a single one? I mean,
probably not.
There's not even the history books anymore are saying crazy stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't even know how you could come up with that anymore. Like, Forsyth County, that's how, baby.
Forsyth County is growing now. It really is. It really. The mere fact that I'm on a prayer line on Tuesday morning in Forsyth County is amazing in itself. So it's growing. It's growing.
Well, you are part of the shift, Brenda. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for shining your light. You guys, thank you again all for joining us live. Thanks for being on Facebook Live. If you're watching it, let us know. I didn't even check the comments. Let's see if there's comments on Facebook that we need to answer.
Okay.
No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, cool. Thank you guys for being here. And LaDonna, if you do happen to hear this later, we'll be sending you a donation as soon as I get my act together today. So thanks, everybody.
We're going to have to do lunch again soon. When things a little more, okay?
That sounds awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Take care and enjoy the remainder of your day.
You too. Thanks. Everybody. Bye.